So yes, 20 guide dogs to the Alps, and I also at once been trained as a professional ballroom dancer. So the variety of career choices one can have out of its own imagination is immense. So is innovation. And I'm here in Designworks responsible for research and strategy. What we do is, innovation could have hiccups, but unlike any industry, car is one thing that hiccups sometimes kill people. Much like we have Airbus here. Aviation and automotive has to be future-proof and it has to be safe because it carries people. And there are risks involved. And this is also the reason why automotive industry has been a consolidation and aggregation of probably the most mechanical parts, the most number of touch points, and the most diversified use cases that you can find in one confined space. So this is the reason why we believe in automotive, when it comes to the future, say until 2023, you could be most likely looking into entirely different way of life and work, in addition to just carrying you from A to B. So what I do today is I'm going to share with you our insight perspective on what the future of mobility will be. But bear in mind, it's not just mobility, because it is so all-encompassing to every aspect of your life. Imagine in the future when you're sitting in the car, when your hands are not on steering wheel, you could be doing anything you want. And so let's take a look at what the future will be. Yes, changes now. And it has happened, and we all have to look at it. And at one point, we're all worrying that one of the soon-to-extinct industry on the Fortune 500 is going to be car. But pretty soon we found out throughout the research, we actually understanding that thanks to all the startups, thanks to all the tech company, we actually uncover a whole new realm of opportunities beyond hardware that we have never discovered before. It changes the way we do business. It changed the way we see customers. It changed the way we see our output. BMW, not so long ago, has repositioned itself as mobility solution provider, no longer a mobility car provider anymore. So you can already starting to see that transition incoming. You will see more of that coming later on this year as well. So there are 3 micro trends that will actually drive the future of connected mobility. Now, when we say connected mobility, it's always so connected with smart city because this requires infrastructure to make it possible. What would connectivity mobility means to you? We're always staying connected. This is already a given. And e-mobility enables so much more fundamental work in terms of geometry, architecture, the way a car is built, that enables you to be driving a car beyond just driving a car. And that has a lot to do with how does a city accommodate or make it possible. So, number 1, digitalization. We all know it's a given. I am based in Shanghai for 6 years now. And in the 6 years where I've been in Shanghai, a lot has happened. And we will pretty soon discover, and we have already acknowledged that this whole digitalization movement is happening in China, and it will most likely be led by China. And therefore, it is important to understand what are the new requirements, what are the new needs, and what are the new changes that are coming our way, which has not yet been apparent elsewhere in the world, but we can already see in those emerging trends happening in China, and which we know will change the world in the future. So the China digitalization movement is very much driven by the younger generation, those who were born after 1990. Never been to Cultural Revolution, never know what starvation is, has always been given a very affluent lifestyle options they can choose from. They're a digital native, however, driven by the generation gap of the post-80s and post-70s. these peoples are even more outrageous when it comes to trying out new things, experimentations, and looking into a new way of expressing themselves. And a lot of those are being done on the digital realm. And they are very demanding and highly digital, which means that these people are right now the core customers of BMW. Let me give you one example. A 5 Series customers in average in Europe is age closer to 50 years old. But in China, the average age is 35 years old. And when it comes to 7 Series, which is what we call the luxury class, and you could have a selling price of over 2 million RMB easy, the average age of that segment is younger than 40, also 38, only 3 years older. So you can imagine the makeup of luxury customers in China. And this is not only happening in China, it is also observed in US as well. Luxury customers are becoming younger and younger. And it has a reason to do with the fact that luxury is becoming more accessible, also because of the fact that it is no longer, the way I consume is no longer defined by my age. That mindset has become very apparent among young people. So just because I can afford it, why can't I buy it? And I have to wait till I'm 45 or 50 to get a 5 Series. If I want it, I'll do it now. So that's we believe is also a very apparent dominant phenomenon right now, just outside of China. So a quick look at what exactly does that digitalization in China brings. So China will be 5 times higher than its GDP when it comes to purchasing power. So in the past 3-4 years, I've been doing in-home visit, talking to customers, going to various different cities in China, and their annual household income versus the vehicle and the luxury items that they purchase are completely incomparable, which means that it is impossible to evaluate and forecast what sort of product they will consume just based on hard data. You know, those data that usually gathered from traditional marketing research, annual household income, your vacation, your job title, your seniority, these are completely irrelevant, I must say, to the kind of car and the luxury lifestyle that they are having. So it is almost becoming a great challenge for a marketer, luckily I'm not one, to find out exactly what drives the customer, where they're going, and especially here in China. And in Double 11, everybody knows the magical day hosted by Alibaba Tmall, where it has Nicole Kidman all the way flew from Hollywood to just sing a song for Jack Ma in that particular event, and everything is streamlined. And we're not talking about just Nicole Kidman. We have Leonardo coming over here, doing a commercial also just for Tmall, just to make them happy. So this power, you can already see that it's being broadcasted and reported everywhere else. And a lot of those are actually surprisingly done. 92% are done on their mobile phone. They're not sitting in the desktop, they're not waiting, they're not using fragmented time. They are using their time online on their mobile phone. So this is not about optimizing fragmented time, it's about that's where the time is. And sorry, can you hit the next page? Yeah. So the next big macro trend is actually e-mobility. We know digitalization is coming. We know in China this is where everything is happening. And e-mobility is also something China is determined to lead. When I say determined, it means that it's actually got boosted, pushed, subsidized, incentivized by the government. The Chinese government is so determined to become the world leader in battery production. They have actually produced actually 40% of the global e-mobility in 2016 alone. This acceleration, I'm going to show you a quick video.
"2018 is set to be the year the world fully embraces the electric car. will see a global tipping point for drivers as electric models start competing with petrol and diesel cars head-to-head.
In 2018, for the first time, we're going to see that it's cheaper to buy an electric car than a petrol or a diesel car. And by cheaper, we mean the total cost of ownership. We're going to see acceleration of the whole idea of cars powered by electricity.
But we'll also be confronted with the uncomfortable truth about the impact of going electric.
So this is a document, video that was done by The Economist. And it's really talking about a boom and growth in e-mobility. Now, if you live in Singapore, you know for sure that people don't need a car. There's Uber, there's Lyft. There are so many different options that can take me from one place to another. In China, the story is slightly different. However, this whole e-mobility revolution does enable one thing. It changes the way a car is built. By doing so, it enables a car to be way more powerful than it used to. Imagine in the future when you put your hands on the steering wheel, already we can tell your biometrics data, which is also a given. However, the technology now also enables, through deep learning, differentiate, are you in a good mood today? Who else are in the car? Do I have to change the car is operate based on the context you're in, which means that the car will be able to detect your context that you're in the car, what time of the day, whom you're with, what's your next engagement. Does that have an impact to where I should be doing for you? So the car is becoming smarter and smarter, all because of the way a car is built. And e-mobility is a huge contribution in order to make that happen. So when we talked about battery car e-mobility, people think that, well, it's just a hardware car that's been running on a different sources of energy, when in fact it actually has way more implications to that. And because of that, China is also rolling out what is called the smart car revolution, which is already apparent now. You've already heard a story from Andy yesterday, I believe, that you're able to take a selfie in the car. Alibaba even has an internet car that has a drone flying on top of you just to capture your every possible Kodak moment. In 2020, Alibaba will not be the only one who's playing that game. We will have way more startups working on entirely different iOS system. Already, 9 of them, 9 different brands, only 3 of them are from established car brands. The rest of them are all startups and new. And they are all launching in China, where you have the usual suspect, Porsche Mission E, Mercedes BQ, and also Audi. And then you have actually Tesla, NIO, Lucid, Faraday Future, and Byton. And I'm only just naming a few number of them. So imagine when you're one day walking into a department store in a shopping mall, all the brands are new. What does that do to you? That changes the way you buy things. It changes the way you purchase, because you're no longer looking for Louis Vuitton, you're no longer looking for Gucci, because it's all branded, they all look good. So what does that change? It also changes how you buy things as well. So the implications of such is way beyond how the car is built, how the car is connected, but also how you purchase and approach a product such as car. AI breakthrough, this is one major motivator or incentive that's going to drive the 2018 and 2019 growth of e-mobility. We are actually, if you see in the background, these are all just a glimpse of apps and companies that are in the very small fraction of what we call ecosystem. Right now, we have Baidu, Alibaba, Tencent. Adding on to that, Xiaomi, it recently just released its cooperation with Microsoft Cortana. They're also building its own AI empire. So we're literally looking at 4 AI empire here. And we talk so much about lean startup, looking for the unicorn, find opportunities outside. But in China, it's very unique is that there is 4, actually, in fact, 3 bottlenecks where everything goes through that 3 gateway. These are Baidu, Alibaba, and Tencent. And everything you see there has everything to do with your everyday life. You can wake up in one morning, open up your WeChat, and by the time you go to bed, you don't really have to leave that app. You can utilize one single app throughout your whole day and still get the job done. You can call your ODM car, you can call your on-demand service, you can have food delivered, have Starbucks delivered to you. The services also remind you your next meeting with your boss. It also tells you, hey, can I challenge you to 7 a.m. workout every day for a whole week? This app also not just work as a WhatsApp. It's a private pocket. It's a loaning services. It's your service secretary. It's your concierge. It's also your personal assistant. And imagine all that happening in your car, and all you need to do interact with it is through natural user interface. What that means is that you can interact with voices, gesture. You don't really have to text anymore, and that's already happening right now in China. And these are, as an automotive maker, especially a German one, we wanted to launch our AI services. I'm sure you might have heard that globally we're working with Amazon Alexa as our in-car AI assistant. So in the future, you will be able to say, hey, Alexa, find out where my next meeting is. I want to find a parking lot. And the Alexa does it for you. But in China, the story is not that simple because we have so many different AI suppliers and so many different advantages. And they're all running on their own gateway and ecosystems. And none of them talk to each other. So what does that mean? And so this is a major challenge for automotive makers such as BMW. For a lot of companies such as GM, they tend to work with every one of them to see which ones survive at the end. But for BMW, where a brand is a valuable, treasurable asset, it's something that we still need to evaluate further. But I'm sure you will hear something by the end of this year pretty soon. So the focus is now experience. We all know what AI can do in the car. We all know what AI can achieve in the car. Well, it orders food for you. It tells you your next engagement. It navigates you to the parking lot. But hey, if every car does the same, if every brand does the same, what differentiates BMW from, I don't know, SAIC? There is no differentiation. At the end of the day, it becomes a brand problem. It becomes a brand challenge. How do you utilize the same technology but entirely orchestrated into entirely different experiences? Not to mention, at the end of the day, we're a luxury brand. And how do we make this whole digital services and experiences luxurious? Can you make a website looking luxurious? So far, that has been a great challenge for designers as well. So how does brand shape this character is really about how I interact with you. If a brand, for the first time, you're able to interact in a call like you're talking to a person, then when the person responds to you, does it look at you? Does it respond to you, or does it proactively talk to you? It becomes a character of that brand, thereby it defines what differentiated. So this will happen in China. And with all that micro trends in mind, I want to talk about what we believe the future will be, which comes to the point here, ownership. It's already very clear that private ownership of buying a car will soon be one of the options only. Most of the people in China in the next 10 years still want to buy a car, believe it or not. And the car as a prestige and as a symbol will remain as it is. However, 50% of them are already interested in subscription base. And a good portion of them are also interested in fractional ownership. Hey, say I share a car with my sister. Fine, that will work as well. So now your ownership is your driver license and your license plate. In the future, your ownership is actually your profile that carries you wherever you go, whichever car you sit in. You will immediately feel like it's a branded environment experience for your own sake. And finally, connectivity next. Ease of use will be a given. Natural interaction will also be a baseline. So what really differentiates is really how do you provide a low complexity while at the same time offering maximum personalization. So now what we do the best is to be able to mirror our phone to our car. That is already a miracle. But in the future, that is probably not enough because individual customers will know already want to decide how and when. And productivity. We talked about taking a group of dogs to the Alps. That's a perfect way of combining personal interests with your work. And for now, what can we do? And we all talked about co-working space, co-living space. What that really means is how do we crowdsource creativity in changing the landscape and the space we all live in. So make it ever evolving, make it even more challenging and interesting. And that would be the vision of future, where the symbiosis of you, space, private work will ultimately make this whole environment better and rejuvenated. And at the end, we believe it's still back to human being, sadly. Well, interestingly as well, with that much technology can do, with that much AI can provide, the myriad use cases that it can fulfill, at the end of the day, the focus is still you, therefore I. And we believe that in the future, the customers want an exclusive relationship, but an inclusive experience. So I want to be reflected in the world, but I also want the world reflected in me. So finally, I want to share a video that actually captures really nicely our vision of the future.
Hey, BMW Connected. How's my day looking? Good morning, David. Your first meeting today will be at 9:30 downtown with Mr. Brannigan. Would you like to choose your driving options? Decker Canyon with the i8 will be a joyride this morning. Yes.
How are you?
Hi, Caroline. Fine, thanks.
Thanks for returning my call. I was calling about our campaign we were talking about last time. I sent you an email with the 2 possible headline press pictures. Is it possible for you to take a look at them right now?
Sure, I'll switch us to video call. I'm in auto mode now. All right, I see your content. I guess option 1 would be a better fit for our main efficiency strategy.
I think so too. I'll talk to the team and we'll move on with this. Thanks.
We should go for lunch when I'm back in Munich next week. I see Thursday could work.
It does. Great, looking forward to it. And good luck for your meetings.
Thank you. David, there's traffic ahead. To keep your estimated arrival time, I suggest leaving the highway at exit 5 for an alternative route downtown. Okay. See you later.
connected. In the future, everyone will carry their own BMW connected account with them. And as a passenger in the Uber car in the, say, 3 Series, or if you test drive later on through Andy in our 330 and 530e, the car will be able to know that, hey, Vanessa's on car and she likes her temperature a bit lower. Let's do that. So your identity carries with you regardless of the vehicle that you sit in, as long as in BMW will have the same experience. One thing that's probably interesting is some of you might wonder, hey, it's autonomous driving. Why do you need a steering wheel? What does it do? This is a very interesting more or less our philosophy as well, is that we believe in the future, humans still needs a tangible object to feel that they are in control. It's also perceptive. In order to perceive that you are in control, it's like riding a horse. You need a strap. And we believe that in the future, when you want to feel like you're in control of this car, you need something. It might not look like a steering wheel. It might look like something else. But for now, we still want that one thing in car where you can feel and touch the haptical feelings and feedbacks of users when it's all in the all digital world will probably become even more apparent. And so a very interesting future. I hope that it's coming soon, which actually, in fact, it will be. Level 3 will be able to introduce next year. And highly autonomous will probably likely be possible in 2023, which is why I name it here. So yeah, and you will be able to test drive the car later on. So if you have any questions, me and Andy are all here to answer your questions. All right, thank you.